presentation will be in English, pero I will speak slowly and I will tell you a few things as to why, first of all, my name is Email Yogi. About 15 years ago, I started playing in email marketing, but I also did a lot of yoga. I still teach yoga. Every Saturday, I teach a class in yoga. And I know some of you, you're tired, your back is hurting, you're cold. There's a lady over there, I saw you're really cold over there. So I will show you one stretch. And this one stretch is something that will help you a lot. If you're alone, whenever you are, make a gun like that. And do this. Right. This is called the moon pose. You know, the moon? And the moon is on at night, so the moon gives you energy. And so anytime you feel tired, you can have a shot of Starbucks, or you can do this. What I'm going to talk to you about are fundamental principles of social media engagement. Basically, what should you do to build a relationship with the consumer you want and the consumer you have? And one very important principle I will tell you is that we need to take care of the customer in our hand. So many times we're out trying to find new customers, we forget about the one that we have. And I'll talk to you about the fundamentals of why I think that is important. So it's about finding, nurturing, nutriting, and converting consumers. We'll talk about that. I want to tell you about my passion. I teach. I travel many parts of the world, and I like to teach. I feel it's a good way to share what you have with lots of people. But when I travel, I also learn a lot, because when you meet different people, you learn a lot of different experiences as far as what people are doing. But in my garden, I enjoy taking care of birds. And one day, one of my friends, he sent me 2 feeders, bird feeders. And I let the bird feeders sit, and they waited, and they waited. And my daughter, she told me, "Papa, put the feeder up." So I put the feeder up. I took the seed. I put the seed next to the feeder. I looked at the birds. I whistled to the birds. No birds. I took the seed and I threw the seed to the paraho, to the birds. I wanted the birds to come and eat the seed. No birds. But you know, when I thought about it, it took 5-6 days. One bird came and ate the seed. Then you told her, the other bird came and ate the seed. You told him, and the birds started telling the birds. And I'll tell you, the one lesson I have learned from this, I will share with you. But the company that I did this work for first, 10 years ago, is a small company. It's a very, very small company. There are 5 people that work there. But every month, they put up a calendar. So this is this month's calendar, Augusto 2016. It's simple. It's a picture of a bird. One of their customers took the picture, put it up on Facebook. People say which one is the best. They take 2 pictures every month. They put it up on the website, and people go and they make it their background. Simple branding. It's very uncomplicated. But what this does is, every time they boot up their PC or they look at their cell phone, they're seeing the bird company's picture. So I told you, what lessons can we learn from these birds? I'll tell you the 5 lessons that I have learned. Lesson number 1, social media engagement is about finding the right people. You want to find the right people. You don't want wrong people to show up for what you're trying to do. If you have a yoga class, you don't want people who are interested in karate to come to your class. You want to find the right people. My second thing, is you need to know your consumer. You basically need to know. So if you tell me that I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I am on social media, I am male, I am 51 years old, I tell you all this information, the brand should remember this stuff. And the brand should not try to sell me products that I don't need. You need to understand who your consumers are. The third thing is, you have to build a relationship. I can't just walk up to you and say, hey, would you like to come out for a drink or a meal? I have to have a conversation with you. We need to go back and forth. And then when I feel that maybe this is the right time, I nurture you to make that decision to have a meal with me. The other thing is, we need to create brand ambassadors. Because see, when I was throwing the seed to the birds were not interested in me. The birds were interested when other birds told us. But one mistake we make when we run our own social media is we say, like me, like me, like me, for our brand. And our customers, they say, who are you? But if Wally tells you Sundeep is good, then you may say, maybe he's good, I might connect with him. So create brand ambassadors. Take care of your existing customers, because if you take care of your existing customers, they will tell other people, and that is what is really important. My fifth principle is, we hear about B2B and B2C, business to business, business to consumer, that's important. Today there is also C2B, consumer to business. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I need to find out tomorrow for lunch, I want to eat certain type of food. I can go out and I can look it up. I can go to a website. I can find out about stereo equipment, all types of electronics. Consumers seeking business. But let me ask you this. Behind these consumers or businesses, there are people. So my whole point is when you make connections, you are making connections with people. So you may be responsible for a B2B brand, or you may be responsible for a B2C brand. But at the end of the day, you're still a human being on the other side, and we need to empathetically connect with those consumers. Now what do? I told you that I started with a blog many years ago. I started writing this blog on digital marketing. I called it Email Yogi. And when I wrote this blog, my idea was that I wanted to share best practices and information. So first, right now, I have about 2,500, 2,700 articles written in this blog. They're about digital marketing best practices. But why did I write these articles? The reason I wrote these articles is because when I went and teach a class, when I go and speak to you, you tell me, can you send me information? Can you follow up? I say, sure. Then she gives me a card, he gives me a card, and I was not following up with everybody. So I started telling people, I'm putting all my best practices on my blog. And I put it there. But it's not just about digital, it's about human interaction. I tried to make it interesting and fun. And I'll tell you one little secret that I'm doing today. I have lots of content. So today if I have to go and speak at an event and somebody says, who are you? I say, oh, go look at my blog. So, they find the articles. But to make it better, what I'm doing today is I'm mixing my words with video. So I am converting my physical content into video content. And I'll give you a suggestion. On your websites, you have frequently asked questions, right? Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? What if you took your frequently asked questions and you turned them into short 45-second to 1-minute videos that explain? Well, there's two things that are beneficial. One, it becomes easy to see. Second, those guys, Google and Bing, they start seeing your content. It goes higher and higher. It is multimedia content. It is more powerful than regular content. And that's what you want to try and do. So what I end up doing with my site, I do research, I do education, I try to teach best practices. What do I mean by digital integration? You see, when the web started, it's about entertainment, it's about engagement, it's all good. But long run, what happens is, we are not just using the internet to advertise, we are using the internet to make ourselves efficient at the back end. What can I do to take care of you, send you an email message, etc. So integrate digital into your organization. How would you do that? The idea I'm doing is, I want to share ideas that are proven, they're practical. Because remember I told you that company, they have 5 people. And these 5 people run social media for the entire company, and they're taking care of 250,000 consumers. They're talking to these people, all the time. Do you know some of the phone calls they get over there is they say, I bought a bird feeder and there are no birds. That's the number one question. And so they ask those people, how many days have you had the feeder out? And they say 2 days. They say, well, it normally takes 5 to 7 days to get it. Now during the conversation I tell you, I have a video on my website. You can go and take a look at it. Go to Facebook, you see this article. It's the same question over and over again. Can you make it simple for your consumers to understand? So with that being your focus and my focus towards you, I also want to share another secret with you. The secret is that 3.5 years ago, I quit my job. I had a nice job. I met this man. I used to fly around in different parts of the world. But what I did was, I took a risk. I left corporate America to go into teaching. And what I do is, I am a B2B brand, right? I am giving you advice. All what I'm telling you, I am actually doing myself. I am trying to take care of the birds I want, to build relationships with them so I can take better things and take things further as well. This is a picture of my mother's parents. My grandfather and my grandmother. They have both passed. My grandfather, he passed away a month ago at the age of 94. A lot of people cried. And I said, don't cry. That man lived life to the fullest. Every morning, he would get up, he would have a bath, and he had a date with Google. Every morning, this man who cannot walk, he has a walking stick. He goes to Google to learn what is going on in different parts of the world. He wrote a check to the bank and he said, I need money. The banker sent the note back saying, your signature, it does not match. So he sent his iPhone to the banker. And he did FaceTime with the banker with his iPad. And he told the banker, he said, this is my stick. I use the stick to walk. I can't come to the branch. That signature, I signed 40 years ago. It's not going to match. But if I have to drag myself to the branch, I will come and I will beat you with the stick. What I want you to know is that we are all thinking about the millennial, the Z generation and all that. But today we have older people who are just as dependent on social media and they're looking for things, so we want to make it easy for them. Convenient, number one. Simple. Try to simplify what all is there and then make it useful. My grandfather used to say that he never liked newspapers now because when you read an article on page 1, and then they tell you to go to page 4, and then you go to this other page, he said that's too complicated. Then one day he told me, my life is not going to go on forever. It's short. I want to only read the most popular articles. So you know what he used to do? He used to go and see which ones had the most comments on social media, and he used to go and read this. 92-year-old man, till he was 94, he did a lot of these things. Questions, answers, and he would use daily, all the time. I want you to remember this because when you create your strategy for your brand, remember, my daughter will like birds, I like birds, and my grandfather also used to like birds. You want to create it to go across generations so you can serve people well. After all this, I want you to know that I speak English. But see, you laugh. But I am telling you this because of 32 years of a very, very bad relationship. You see, every time I take out that card and I put it into the machine, the first question it asks me is to choose my language. And then they tell me, how much money do you want? For 32 years, I have always spoken English and I've always taken out $60. And you don't know that about me, but you want to make offers to me? There's a bank in India, and this bank is called HDFC Bank. And I will tell you, Panama has no traffic. No traffic. You want to see traffic? Maybe you go to Honduras. Honduras is bad too, but India, it's bad. And people just sit in the car, they just relax, they do different types of things out there. But this bank started telling people that if you use it, we'll give you cash in 25 seconds. So how does the transaction start? It says, hi Sundeep, do you still want 5,000 rupees? Do you still want $60? It's done that. I've taken that out. I've told you, I don't want a receipt. Let me go. Remember me. Because if I remember you, and then I make a suggestion to you, you're going to say, oh, he knows me. He protects my information. And that is what I mean about knowing your consumer so you can serve them well. Now this bank also does what's called 70% engagement rate. That means for every 100 messages they send, 70% of the people open it, look at it. And 1 in 5, they buy. You know why? Because the bank doesn't just say, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this. They nurture. They say, hey, how are you? Do you like red, white, or blue? You click on blue. They target you with something about blue. 3 touch transactions. Remember what your consumer did the last 2 or 3 times so you can make a better offer out to that consumer. Everything this bank does today is personalized. And what is really funny for me, I immigrated to the United States in 1984. Okay, some of you were not there. But I have lived in the United States since 1984. What is interesting today is I have American banks, North American banks and some Latin American banks who I take to India to see how this bank is selling products and services to consumers at the ATM. They're selling televisions, they're selling gold coins, they're selling coffee or sandwiches from the store next door, they're even selling palm reading. Different types of things. Can you ever imagine it is being done by a machine? And that is the opportunity you have, because if you know me and we have a relationship, and if I keep taking care of you, you're going to forget that that is a machine that is talking to you. You will actually feel that that is a person who's having a conversation because they're not forcing you to buy all the time. And that's what you want to try and do. So some of you may know this jacket. This used to be called a Nehru jacket, this jacket. Now, it's suddenly called a Modi jacket. This guy is the Prime Minister of India. And about 3 years ago, I got a chance to talk to them about social media. And I want you to think about what he has done. When you think about India, a lot of people think about corruption, right? You say, oh, you know, there's a long line, you want to get in front of the line, you pay a little money, you can get ahead. You know what he did? He said, if anybody asks you for money, shame them on Twitter. And then he told his officers, he says, you take care of it. So all of a sudden, everything he does is out there. Now, you know how big he is on Twitter today? He has 13 million people on Twitter. He started 2 years ago. He's second to Barack Obama, okay? But he started 3 years ago. 36 million people like him on Facebook. And Antonio, he is also focused on LinkedIn. He has a different philosophy for all of these. But what is he doing with it? It's a government. It's 1.2 billion people who are connected. There's mobile devices. What he says is, one newspaper will say this, another newspaper will say this, the TV reporter will say this, the magazine might say this. You want to know the truth? You come to me, my site, transparency. I will tell you exactly how it is. Can you imagine picking up the phone and speaking to your Prime Minister or President? He says, leave me messages. I will respond to those messages. Now I know he does not respond to all the messages, but the messages get to him. And what he also does is he talks about ideas. Now India, what they do is many times if you eat something and you have the garbage wrapper in your hand with a can of Coke, nobody's looking, they just throw it. I feel bad when I go there too. I see people doing that. So what this guy did is a lot of Indians, they worship. Indians are very superstitious people. We worship all kinds of gods because we say we want to make sure we don't upset any one of them, so some of them will help us. There's the goddess of wealth, money. So a lot of Indians, they do this worship of the goddess of wealth. And what this guy did is he launched a campaign, Keep India Clean. And it shows people who are praying to the goddess of wealth, and then they take the dirt and they throw it away. And all of a sudden, the goddess's picture disappears. They launched this on Twitter with a hashtag that says, Keep India Clean. Can you imagine a developing country using social media to get marketing out? They are not spending $1 on TV advertising. It's all being done on digital media. So why I want you to think about this again is because that consumer is just like the consumer you seek. In India, you have lawyers, doctors, engineers, but you also have farmers, you have workers, you have laborers, you have people with mobile devices. And if this guy can do it, it's interesting. His personal Twitter account is more than the Prime Minister Office of India. And the guy, he's very transparent. And his whole thing is, it's a principle of humility, which a lot of people don't have. So let's take some other things. So I told you I do yoga. And yoga is a lot about engagement. I don't know how many of you practice yoga. Okay, we've got a few people. In fact, Katya, who's one of the instructors out here, she teaches a yoga class. So this pose that I was doing, it's called the half bow, right? You do this. I'm not showing off, I do this on a regular basis, so I'm just telling you. But I want you to tell you the story behind this pose. The story behind this pose with the bow pose, where you shoot the bow, is people put a target and they called you. I said, sir, come here. I want you to hit the target. So you come to me, I give you the bow and arrow, and you shoot it. And I say, what do you see? You say, I see you, I see the room, I see everybody, I see the target. I say, go sit down. I ask you to come do it. You to come do it. You all do the same thing. You come. And I say, what do you see? You say, I see the target. And I say, you're okay to shoot. Let me explain to you something about yoga, and I'll turn it back into marketing. First of all, there are 3 types of yoga. Hatha, which is physical. Prana, which is breathing. And third is Raja, which is meditative. Those are the 3 types of yogas. And then Sundeep can come up with his own version of yoga, and then there's Bikram yoga, and there is Juan Valdez yoga, and all kinds of stuff. Like because remember, pose, energy, caffeine, Juan Valdez, Colombians missed a big opportunity. The thing you need to keep in mind is, the first thing in yoga is balance. So you want to make sure Sundeep doesn't fall down. Second thing in yoga is breathe. Most of us forget to breathe. The third thing in yoga is, why are you doing it? What is the goal? It is to hit that target. These are the things we need to think about in terms of how we are doing our marketing campaigns. I want to make sure I get it right. I do it over and over again. And what was I trying to accomplish? Take it back to those 5 principles in the beginning. The whole thing here is focus. How many of you know the name of this pose? It's called the eagle pose. Think about it. Why is something that is like that called an eagle. Because when you release, you soar, you fly away. And that is what we want to do when we talk to the consumers we serve. We want them to recognize what is the focus of our marketing efforts. You put out a magazine, you're promoting an article in the magazine. You want people to realize why you're doing it. You have a blog, your blog talks about animals. You're telling people, I'm telling you how to take care of your animals. These are the types of things you need to do. Focus is very important. Round the clock social media, it's not 8 to 5. We could have done this as a webinar and we could do this all the time over the internet. There's lots and lots of channels. And I know I've only put a few, but it is going to keep changing and growing and all that stuff. Twitter used to be significant. Remember MySpace at one time was a big thing. Justin Timberlake also invested in MySpace. MySpace failed. It's going to change. But I want to tell you that in the US, I stay at many hotels. And once I stayed at a hotel called Kimpton Hotels. So when you stay at the Kimpton Hotels in the US, what they do is they say, are you going to be in your room for 3, 4, or 5 nights? And they say, Mr. Kapur, can we put goldfish in your room? I don't know if you've gone to a hotel and you have goldfish in your room, but when I had the goldfish in my room, I never left my room. I never turned on the TV. And I was just sometimes talking to the fishes. Because you're alone and you're there and you start talking. When we think about our social media strategy, a lot of us think that social media is like pescado in a barrel, fish in a barrel. And I'm going to shoot, I'm going to catch as many fish as I can. The thing I would like you to remember, it's not fish in a barrel. You have to nurture them. You have to give them names. You have to talk to these consumers. And don't make the mistake. Because short-term gain, yes, you will get a bunch of people. 40% off, 60% off, buy one, get two free. Then what? They'll go to somebody else. You want to make sure that you do things correctly. Let's talk quickly about good content. Content is what drives everything. I'm going to do this, you have to make sure it's relevant. And many times, we can't write original content ourselves. That's why you depend on magazines and other writers, etc. So sometimes if you like an article that was written in the Mundo, or you write an article that was written on a blog about dogs, why not you share that snippet with your other people? And you tell people that, hey, there was a great article written in the Mundo magazine and this is what they wrote about. You add your comments to it. This is how you add value. You play the role of a digital editor. You're telling people, hey, great article, go read this. But make sure, if you don't read it, at least you have a summary of what the article says. Because I've also seen some people who put an inappropriate article, and they put the article out, and they said, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I wasn't looking. They were not feeding the birds. They don't know what to do. Second principle I'd like you to do is think about your value add. What are some key enhancement tips? If it's a long article, I will summarize it. I'll say, here, 2 or 3 things. Here's what the benefit is. I will highlight something that's very important. I will share something new. I might just say, Lisette, that was great. Thank you. I want to acknowledge Forbes, the author of the article. Because all of a sudden the author of the article says, who are you? Oh, Wali. Oh, so we reciprocate. We're trying to build a relationship like that. And you acknowledge while you share. Do not just take something and forward it on to somebody else. Because when I used to work in the corporate world, many times I used to send an email out to my boss. And the boss said, why am I paying you? What do I do with this message that you're sending me? Think of the same thing. The consumer we try to target has their mobile phone. They get message after message after message. How do you make it practical and useful? Headlines, style tips, short and succinct. Headlines and sub-headlines. You want to use images and infographics. In the B2B world, infographics world, how many of you work for a bank or a credit union? Financial institutions, we have a lot. I will tell you the story about this brand and I'll tell you who this brand is. The 5 big things that are driving change. I am flying with you on a plane. Cybersecurity is very important, right? Lots of changes are taking place. Cloud, big data, consumer experience, and mobility. These are 5 big drivers. This is happening over and over again. You can have a conversation with other people. This is IBM's value proposition. IBM, the technology company. And what IBM is trying to do with this is they're trying to tell people, how would you tell your story? Because I can't just tell you, oh yeah, cybersecurity is big, or I do this, this is big, this is big, this is small. You want to come up with a story that you can explain things well. 3 principles. Reciprocity. I shake your hand, you shake my hand back. Gandhi used to say, slap me, I'll turn the other cheek. No. We want to basically have a reciprocal relationship. And what I've done is, I try to tell you that if you are representing your brand, you want to show that I am a brand authority. Respect me, because this is who I am. It will help you in the long run. What you do is you try to seek an opportunity to establish a valued business relationship. You want to look good, sound intelligent, provide value. You want to get to them to connect with you on social media. Engage, exchange business cards. Get the right to call back. If I tell you that there are 9 ways to tie a scarf, how many ways do you know how to tie a scarf? 3? 4? There's 9 ways to tie a tie. But if I was selling men's clothing and I told you 9 ways to tie a tie or 9 ways to tie a scarf, you're going to say, can you show me how? I'll say, oh yeah, sure, like me on Facebook. It's there. I have a video out there. That's what I mean in terms of kind of coming up with content like that. The other thing is sometimes you have some customers that will push you. You have to make a decision. You have to stand your ground. Because sometimes people try to show you that they're smarter than you and they might say that you didn't treat them properly or there were 30 people in line, blah, blah, blah. But there are times you have to stand your ground and you take things further from there. Exclusivity. The content on the internet is the same. There's a lot of similar stuff. There's very little difference between one brand and another brand and another brand. You have to make sure that when you send something, you make your customer feel that it's exclusive, it's for them. I have the perfect white paper. Before that event sells out, I can get you tickets. Chicken tikka masala. I have a recipe for that is one of the best. I share those with people, and that's one other way that I connect with people. You want to stress these things. Like I said, there is no shortage of great content. You have to try to make it as exclusive as possible. Digital etiquette. We meet in real life. We didn't know why, but initially the photographers grabbed us and said, smile, smile, smile. But then after that, we shook hands. You shake hands, you make eye contact, and you make introductions. You don't rattle off your resume. You just say, oh, this is what I do. What do you do? And then you find a way to converse with that consumer. I'll quickly go through this slide where I'll say, thank you notes are important, right? Where you send somebody thank you notes, it works in the real world also. We need to try to do that. We can do that digitally. How do you answer the phone? When somebody calls you, do you say, this is Sundeep? Or do I say, hola, Wari, ¿cómo está? Because I recognize him. When you call your consumer today, your consumer knows who you are. If the consumer calls you sometimes, you know who they are. So why not say and talk to them rather than saying, choose your language and how much money do you want? You want to try and personalize this as much as possible. And then the thing is, if I meet you once, we want to meet again. We want to meet again. You want to take care of people so you do a good job. So as I try, I want to highlight a few things. One is, a transaction is not just on one channel. It is multi-channel. Because you will see, all kinds of attribution as to which channel do I thank for the business. We have to track this across channel. The other thing is there's multimedia. So there's journeys in banking. So I write how to buy a car, how to buy a home, how to get a loan. Journeys in retail, journeys in restaurants. journeys in education, medical, government. Let me tell you what a journey is. I'll make it simple. I'll tell you how I make a cup of tea. There's a young lady there, I almost took your cup of tea when you brought the tea in. But what I do is I put my tea bag in, I put water, I heat it for 2 minutes in the microwave. I let it come out, I let it sit for 2 more minutes, I put it back for 30 seconds. It becomes strong. After I do that, I wait for a minute and I put sugar. Why do I wait for a minute? Because otherwise it becomes bubbly. I don't like that. I stir it and I put 1 teaspoon of milk in 1 cup of coffee or 1 cup of tea. That is a consumer journey. Write it out for your consumer. Oh, you want to get a car loan? Here's what you do to get a car loan. Here's the form you fill out. This is what you need. Here are the things that you need to do. And think about doing these in multimedia, where I can show you pictures of tea. I can show you variations of tea. Oh, I like té negro. I don't like leche. Well, that's fine. You tell them, oh, I don't take sugar. I have it without sugar. I don't like caffeinated. I like decaffeinated. So what I want you to do is I'd like you to think about multi-channel, multimedia consumer journeys. Let's share some of the best practices. I've got 2 slides as I wrap this up. But the thing I want you to remember is there's so much going on social media. We want to show empathy, that I care. I want to be considerate. I want to be friendly. I want to be compliant. I don't want to break laws. And I also want to be convincing. I want to tell you I am the authority. I know what is important. I know what needs to be done. The idea is you do these things right, you achieve social media perfection. As I wrap up what I talked about today, I'd like you to think about few fundamentals that I shared with you that are important. Number 1, storytelling. You will remember the story about the birds. You will remember the story about my grandfather. You will remember the story about what I did for my own blog. People remember stories, and that's what you want to try and put out for your consumers. That's extremely important. The second one is, you want to show people that you're sincere. If I am a men's clothing company, I want to make sure that you look good. I want to answer the questions. I want to give you an opinion on colored socks. What to wear with what. I want to highlight that for you. You need to somehow digitally show sincerity. The third aspect to this, you need to follow. So many times, we get a question, we don't answer it. But Marco, there's another way we don't answer. You know, you can track what your consumer is clicking on, what they liked. So you're telling me over and over again that you like peep-toe pumps, you like heels, and I'm selling you flats. I'm selling you flats. But you keep clicking on something. That's following up. It is important to track so you know what your consumer has done so you can take the next step. You also have to keep innovating. And I'll tell you, one way I learn is I listen. I watch. I see what people are doing. And I keep talking to my consumers. I want to have focus groups. I want to see, why did you buy that? Because that to me is really important. And of course, think about nurturing the bird in hand. You want to focus on the bird in hand. Couple of thoughts. I haven't just slept, meditated, and come up with these ideas. Since 1999, I have had the opportunity to touch some of these companies. So I've done a lot in terms of trying to figure out what these are. And whether you're an Amazon, an Overstock, a Macy's, a sports company, NASCAR, these principles are fundamental. Better homes and gardens, print, different types of things. What I have done this afternoon is I've actually taken these brands and I'm going to show you what these brands have done to create that type of engagement. I will close with one final story. I went to Las Vegas to speak at a conference. And I stayed at a hotel called the Cosmopolitan Hotel. And I would recommend, if you go to Las Vegas, the Cosmopolitan is a great hotel to stay at. ¿Por qué? Because on one side of the Cosmopolitan, you can see the Bellagio water fountains. You want that side. It looks really nice. And when you go there, you can tell them you know Sundeep. You can do a lot of things like that. But what happened is when I walked into my room, I had 3,600 square foot room. I was like, wow, that is almost like my two-story house. I asked them, why did you give it to me? So you know what they told me? They said the Cosmopolitan is a Marriott hotel. And every week, we have some guests who spend a lot of nights who come. We do some Google research on them. I said, oh, what did you find out about me? They said, we found out you're not speaking at 1, you're not speaking at 2, you're speaking at 3 conferences. So we thought we'd be nice to you. Well, guess who I talked about at all 3 conferences? I talked about them at all 3 conferences. You know what they gave? They gave me a frame. They found my website, and this is a cake. It's my face. So I took this to the conference, and I can tell you, I have never seen women eat pieces of me like that before. They just grab it. The point I want you to do is a lot of what I told you takes time. And there is a shortage of time. We all have the same time. What I have done is I have tried to focus on these principles that I wanted to share with you, these best practices that I wanted to share with you. And my only suggestion to you folks is squeeze time, and I wish you sincerely the very best for the businesses and the consumers you see. Muchísimas gracias.
Sundeep, I have a challenge for you. I need 35 seconds to set up something. So I have for you this chair.
Oh,
That's up to you.
sure.
Yeah?
Okay. So, you know, many times you will be sitting in the office, you're sitting here. I will teach you 3 seated poses for yoga. Okay? 3 times where you sit. You could be sitting on Copa Airlines, Avianca, and you could be sitting in the middle seat. I will teach you, number 1, how to make your seat bigger. This pose is called the twisted half fish. And I'll tell you the philosophy behind this is it squeezes your base of your spine, it gives you energy. But is a fish flexible? Pescado flexible? See? So in life, it tells us we need to be flexible. So that's lesson number 1.
Okay.
The second one I'll teach you is the seated cobra. You see the snake, the cobra snake? And the cobra comes up like that, right? Now, when you do the cobra, in many times, do you mind? The real cobra is done like that, okay? When you lay down on the floor, and you come up, and do you see me use my hands? No hands. You're coming up like that. But the same benefit of the seated cobra is it arches your back up, it gives you great energy. The other thing is, if you go to India and a cobra comes running after you, you know what to do? Take your scarf out and throw it, because it will go and attack the scarf. When a cobra looks at you, it stares at you. And what I tell people is when you do the seated cobra or whatever you do, stare, use your eyes. It's actually good for your eyes as well. The last pose I'll do, as my friend has finished this off, is I will again take you back to that pose, the moon. Except this time I'll do the moon a little differently. Watch my hands. And then aquí. You see, what this does, as my friend is holding this up, it's like somebody squeezing endorphins. And that gives you boundless energy. Thank you for the 30-second commercial.